gentlemen, to the latest episode of the Lords of Podcast Roundtable. I'm your host, Hustle, and I am awake at 8 o'clock in the morning for this, so this better be special. Joining me for this very early morning podcast, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Kyle.
Good morning, everybody.
You fucking right. Also joining me, Mr. Glow.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, you fucking right. Last but certainly not least, also joining me today, Uncle Jeff. Hello.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's 11 o'clock over here in the East Coast. I don't know what this morning stuff is.
Oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? This is ridiculous. At least you're not a robot this time, Jeff.
Oh, right. Woo. Awesome.
Woo.
I wouldn't go that far.
That comes later.
Oh, later. Okay. Well, that was going to come first, but WWE has decided to bless us with a piece of breaking news that just happened in the last few hours. I guess I didn't even know about it until these guys pointed it out to me after I woke up this morning. But in case you haven't seen it by now, which is going to be weird by the time you all hear this if you haven't heard this already, Evan Bourne has been suspended for the second time for his second wellness policy violation. If you'll remember, he was suspended on November 1st and came back, in the middle of December? I don't remember exactly when he came back. He didn't come back at the end of the 30 days. It was like a little bit afterwards, I believe, wasn't it?
Right.
So here we are in the middle of January, suspended again. So now he has a 60-day penalty here, and that would explain the title change at the house show over the weekend. But Glow, I'm going to start with you. Since you saw the news before me, when you first saw that Bourne was suspended, what'd you think?
I'm not surprised at all, completely. I figured he was either suspended or there might have been like some sort of injury or something why they actually had a title change at a house show. As you know, that's very rare. They don't do anything special at house shows, really. Not knocking house shows. If you want to go to them, you could go to them. But they don't really do nothing special at them. So when I heard that Evan Bourne took the fall, and we saw it on Raw, and they came back in another match where Evan Bourne just took another clear fall to Primo and Epico. Not like they lost like anybody worthwhile, but they lost to them. I was like, Evan must be smoking spice or weed spice, Old Spice, maybe Old Spice. He was just possibly, I don't know. I think this is going to be Evan's last straw. Even though they do get 3 strikes, I feel like getting suspended 2 weeks after you were just coming off a suspension for the same thing. I'm assuming, okay, obviously the report didn't come out what he got suspended for. I'm assuming it's the same thing. I don't think he went from spice to like steroids or something. I think he just went spice to spice. And then what kills me is that at the end of the day, you don't get suspended for weed. You get fined for weed. The real stuff. Well, the illegal stuff for the country, but it's more legal in the WWE. Like people like Randy Orton are known users and abusers. They just get fined. Why is it that Evan Bourne just don't use weed? I know this sounds bad, but why can't he just smoke weed?
Because he's addicted to spice, clearly.
Is spice more addictive? Is it more addictive, or is it just like, I don't know. I never smoked spice. So anybody here, Jeff, you smoked spice before?
No, I don't smoke spice. I don't smoke.
If you've ever listened to an Evan Bourne promo, he doesn't sound like a brain surgeon to begin with. That might explain things a little bit more, but
no, I don't get it. I think he's. I know we said it. We said it earlier before we actually started our podcast. That maybe he's trying to sabotage himself, or it's just he's purposely doing it. I could see that. Like
maybe he just really hates Kofi. It's just like, I don't want to be here right now. Let me do this and fuck with his career. I don't know. It's just
maybe he's trying to get released. I'm not sure. He might be trying to get out of his contract and to go to better places. Maybe. I don't know.
Better places. Mm-hmm.
Better places for him where he actually could get more TV time and be taken more seriously, like Ring of Honor. Like if he went back to Ring of Honor.
But he was just tag team champion. He was until he got suspended. He was tag team champion. He was doing fine. So if he was looking for a better place to go, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. I'm trying to find logic in the midst of this stupidity. I'm trying to find him some credit because maybe he's just stupid. Maybe he's just stupid.
See, Jeff brought up Kofi Kingston, and that's obviously the person that you got to think about now. You have the tag team titles, then your tag team partner gets suspended for a wellness policy violation. Then you go and do nothing for his time serving the suspension, and then he comes back. Things are fine. The company decided not to take the titles off you guys. He's back. You're fine. You're a tag team again. Things are going well. And then he gets suspended again for possibly the same thing, maybe something different. Who knows? But, Kyle, if you were Kofi Kingston right now, today, what would you think?
I would be so very mad at my tag team partner screwing up this opportunity that was given to him. And if it is the same thing, Spice, I just looked it up. It is more addictive than weed.
Oh, wow.
Like it stays in the body longer and there's more withdrawal symptoms. So maybe he is addicted to it and he needs to go to rehab or something. But Kofi's got to be mad. The writers had nothing for him before, and that's why he and Evan Bourne got thrown together in a tag team and thrown to the useless tag team division that WWE has. What's he going to do now that he's lost in the mid-card shuffle on Raw? He literally has nothing to do unless they're just going to throw him Mason Ryan or Tyler Rex or Ezekiel Jackson or some other mid-carder that's been lost in the shuffle on Raw and SmackDown as a tag team partner. I don't see him doing anything right now. Like, what's he gonna do? I'd be pissed off if I lost my TV time opportunity in this company.
And what makes it worse is because I just remember I was doing podcasts and we were like, Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston as Air Boom are gonna possibly rejuvenate and revitalize the tag team division, because that's what it was looking like. You had them, you had Awesome Truth, you had the Usos. I don't think Epico and Primo had debuted yet.
Nope.
But it was looking like we were getting the tag team division back with these guys at the helm.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, Evan Bourne's fucking that up, not just for Kofi, but for the entire tag team division.
Yeah.
It's just Evan Bourne's decision making is just essentially destroyed the division again.
And I agree with Jeff on that one. The idea that we were all excited. It was all over the boards. It was all over every wrestling website. Now that they're the champions, and then the WWE did sign Kings of Wrestling at that time, or allegedly signed. As you know, Chris Hero still didn't come through yet. And then that they were looking in the indies at other people, and they were bringing in all these other tag teams because Triple H now wanted to put a focus on tag teams, rumored. We all got excited. And obviously that didn't happen because it's just, Air Boom, they've had the belt. But Evan is trying his best right now to handicap it. And now he's not going to be a tag team champion again for a while if he ever becomes one ever again. Because I know they don't trust him with the belt right now. If you can't have your champions on TV, then getting suspended 2 weeks later. You can't do that. They won't trust him.
See, I like that Kyle brought up rehab. If I recall correctly, with wellness policy violations in the past, it's usually the second violation that the company starts pushing rehab on their workers, unless the first violation was something really severe.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen in the past with people like Umaga, who refuse to go to rehab, and then it leads to their outright release from the company, this might not be the last we hear of this story. I'm sure if this is going to be the second suspension in this brief a time, if it's going to be for the same thing, with what Kyle said about how addicting Spice can be, apparently, you've got to assume at least that he's got a major problem. So if they're going to push rehab on him and he refuses, he could be released by the end of the week. This really might not be the last we hear of it. But if he's going to be a good boy and he's going to agree to go to rehab and realize that he has a problem, the company has proven to be loyal on countless occasions. If he goes to rehab and completes rehab and does everything the right way, he could come back and still be, pushed. Maybe not to a title like Glow said, because you can't really trust your champions, or you can't trust the guy to be a champion if he has these kind of problems. He's going to need to prove himself for a very extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of people are automatically going to assume, oh yeah, he's done. They're either going to release him or, he'll be a jobber for the rest of his career. That isn't necessarily true. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It could very well happen. But like I said, if he does what he's supposed to do, the company does appreciate that. If he can admit that he has a problem, but I mean, we'll see. All this could be for nothing. It could be his second suspension could be for something completely different. We don't know. We might not ever know.
Could be for steroids for all we know.
Yeah, you never know.
But
essentially, just wait and see. We see that he's gotten suspended. We just gotta kind of wait and see what comes of it, if anything comes of it.
I'm sure in the next day or so we'll find out the reason he was suspended.
But if it's Spice, I feel bad for him, because if it's Spice, they're not going to trust him that much anymore. Steroids, maybe.
We discussed before the actual recording of the show, that he's going to be able to return to the company and to television in the middle of March, which could possibly place him on the WrestleMania card. And there is still rumors that the company is going to put Money in the Bank back on WrestleMania. How that would work, I don't know. Now that they have a separate match for Raw and a separate match for SmackDown, I don't know how that would work for the WrestleMania one. But obviously Evan Bourne style fits in for those kind of matches. And I think it was Kyle that brought up that, that could be the way to finally get him out of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Bring him back from his suspension, put him in Money in the Bank. He has a big spot during the match. Boom, he's injured. Then, like, the day after, you see that he's been released. Could happen.
I mean, they did something similar with Sin Cara at Money in the Bank, where they took him off TV for a couple of weeks, or swapped him out with Unico. He took that power bomb from Sheamus, and so they could do the same with Evan Bourne if they bring back Money in the Bank. That would not surprise me.
So, are you saying, Jeff, that they're now going to sign Evan's brother to come in and play his doppelganger?
I've seen Evan Bourne's brother on the indie scene. I don't even remember what his first name is, but he's no, that's not going to happen.
No. I didn't even know he had a brother. That's good to know.
He does.
It's like Mike Seidel. He's just not. No. Yeah,
I think we're all in relative agreement that this is just disappointing. I mean, he's not a main event guy, but he had so much going for him, and he had Kofi Kingston's career going as well, and God knows what's going to happen to Kofi now. I mean, they didn't really have much for him as a singles wrestler before they put him in this tag team. But now at the same time, would it surprise anybody if they pushed Kofi because of this?
Well, they really could, and I know Glow has said before that Kofi might be... He said in the predictions for the year that Kofi Kingston was going to be the first guy to win a world title, like the first new world champion this year. Mm-hmm. And with all the rumors of it being there being a Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania... Who knows? I mean, Christian could be back at that time. Kofi, there could be a lot of different ways it could go. Kofi might get a look, since he hasn't bitched and moaned about his status in the company. He's always been a pretty good company guy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it could happen. I personally don't see it happening. I don't see Kofi winning Money in the Bank, and if he does, he'll lose his cash-in opportunity.
Ooh.
So harsh.
I really don't see it. A couple years ago, I would have seen it, but no, not anymore. I don't believe it.
I mean, I certainly think he could get pushed as a mid-card, upper mid-card guy, feud with Jack Swagger over his new United States Championship, which we'll get to later. But as far as like a world champion, I don't know, but I think, as you said, Kofi Kingston's very much been a company guy. He toes the company line. He doesn't speak out. He doesn't say these negative things about the company like Bourne did when he was suspended the first time. So I think, as we've said, the company really likes the guys who are loyal and will push guys because of it. I could certainly see him, if they're not going to put him in another tag team, maybe pushing him to the United States Championship or at least a feud for the United States Championship. Because otherwise, he's just going to float around. I don't think, outside of that, I don't really think there's anything they could do with Kofi. He's not a big enough name or big enough draw for the world title scenes, and that's basically it. It's either United States Championship or nothing, really.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think he actually really could get put into the main event scene. Not main event like guaranteed Cena, Orton type main event, but he could be one of those Chris Jericho, Kane type of upper mid-card people that kind of get put in the main event from time to time. Because the WWE right now is in need of any type of face. It's very heel heavy everywhere you look, and especially when it comes to the main event scene, it's very heel heavy. There's barely any credible main event faces out there, especially with DB now turning to. Like, we're going to look around, there's going to be a bunch of heel champions. And Kofi's over with the kids. He sells merch. As people like to always point out, merchandise is a big deal. And he has a poppy, flashy offense. I don't think Kofi's ever going to win the belt and become like a long-reigning champion or a dominant champion. But I could see him being one of those floater guys like a Kane or a Jericho or a Christian who kind of touches it, has it maybe for a month, 2 months, and comes back down and maybe become a transitional champion. And from what I learned this morning, that being a transitional champion is not a bad thing. You could be a Hall of Famer and be a transitional champion.
Don't get too ahead of us now.
I think Kofi can do that. And I don't see no reason for him not. As I said, his offense is very flashy. People love him. They may not see him as a real threat. But a Money in the Bank win doesn't have to go to a main event winner. As The Miz won the Money in the Bank and he became the champion.
Jack Swagger did as well.
Jack Swagger did the thing.
This is exactly what I was going to say. If you've been reading my columns, for the last 2 years, I've been saying that Kofi could very well be a future main eventer. But, with Money in the Bank possibly being at WrestleMania, you have 2.5 months to build people up before WrestleMania. And then once you win Money in the Bank, you have a long time to be built up. You don't need to cash in right away. We've seen guys hold the briefcase for an entire year before cashing in. There's plenty of time to build Kofi up. Is he a main eventer right now? No.
Mm-mm.
Is he even close to being a main eventer right now? No. But between now and WrestleMania alone, he could be pushed to where everybody could sit there and be like, yeah, I could see this. But even if WrestleMania doesn't have Money in the Bank, even if Money in the Bank stays in the summer where it has been the last few years, that's even more. Then he has a couple extra months to be pushed. And, kind of a spoiler alert for a few months from now, if they do have Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, I think Kofi Kingston might be one of my favorites to win it. Just as of today, right now. Just, like we said, he's been, since Twitter first started and since the WWE first started having their guys on Twitter, if I recall correctly, Kofi was one of the first guys to have a Twitter account. And he's been strong on Twitter since day one. He tweets all the time. He doesn't take really long breaks in between his tweets. But you don't see the complaints from him. You never see him complain about his spot or his friend's spots, or he doesn't complain about why is this guy getting pushed, this match was this. It's just positive things from the guy.
He really is a company guy.
Yeah, he seems just like a nice guy that, gets along with people, no problems. And, as kind of a token of their appreciation, because he's been so understanding through his partner's fuck-ups, a Money in the Bank victory, yeah, I think, like I said, as of today, if we're gonna fantasy book that, I think Kofi might be my favorite to win it. But obviously, that we might not even see the match, so who knows? But
Just as long as it doesn't like fizz out like it did when he was feuding with Randy Orton.
oh god,
Because you have to remember that he did this before, and then for whatever reason, they just dropped it. So
that
as long as they don't do that again, I could be coerced into seeing Kingston as a major player, but I think
major. No, I don't see him as a major player at all. He's just going to be a floater.
No joke. That whole Randy Orton Kofi Kingston thing, I think that's one of the WWE's biggest. Oh, that wouldn't have sounded right. One of their biggest ball droppings.
The biggest dropped ball.
Yes, there you go. I think of the last several years, because if you remember back, a couple years ago when they were feuding, Kofi was right there.
He was mad over.
The crowd was completely ready to embrace him as a main eventer. He was going up with Randy Orton. It was believable.
He's getting the best of Randy Orton, and then
and it was Orton, and it was the super uber heel Randy Orton on Raw too, not like this still a heel but getting cheered as a face Randy Orton. It was like when Orton was
RKOing his grandmother.
Best. Yeah, at his best, with legacy and everything.
I still remember that episode of Raw from Madison Square Garden where Kofi did the boom drop
and
from the railing.
Popped.
And that's Madison Square Garden. Okay? If you made it there, you made it anywhere, as the saying goes. And that crowd was rabid. They were ready for Kofi. And it just never happened.
It's because he lost at Survivor Series and then he just got lost in the shuffle.
It's not like they gave him a main event run and it failed. It never happened. And he hasn't come remotely close to that level since then. So it remains to be seen what happens for both Kofi and Evan in the future. But man, Evan, you fucked up, man.
You fucked up twice.
There's no nice way of putting it. You fucked up.
Back to back. That's a crazy thing.
If you think, being a Ring of Honor television champion or a TNA X Division champion is better than a WWE Tag Team champion, okay, more power to you, I guess. But that seems to be the road that you're traveling on here at this rate.
And you can't forget you cost your buddy, his chance. You cost your buddy his title. You cost your buddy his television opportunities. And it's not just you're messing up. It's your friend. And that should be, a little bit more on your mind than just yourself. You're not costing only you whatever spot you have. You've also kind of cost Kofi Kingston his spot.
See, if Kofi was a real Jamaican and not just a fake Jamaican, he would have requested the fade on Evan already.
Yeah, he would have killed Evan by now.
It's just he would have brought the shatas in and it would have been over. But
the racism.
I guess, with him not being a real Jamaican, I guess.
Yeah.
He's some dude from Boston.
What do people from Boston?
Pretending to be Jamaican, pretending to be from Ghana, being from Ghana, pretending to be, I don't know.
He's just pretending.
Yeah.
Poor Kofi.
I don't have anything else to say on this particular topic. I think we've covered it pretty well.
Go
so
home,
far.
Evan. Go home.
Fix yourself, Evan.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Don't turn into Matt Hardy.
All right. Relax over there, DOS Effects. Calm down. Jesus.
It's just encouraging words. Encouraging words.
Yeah, I think we should move on. It's depressing talking about Evan Bourne at this point.
Let's talk about something happy.
Yeah.
Or, well, this next topic is going to be depressing for some people.
Super Chris.
Hi, Super Chris. Don't do that, Jeff. You son of a bitch. Well,
Just
as some of you can figure out by the mention of Super Chris,
he's our friend, by the way. He's our friend.
We're gonna talk about Zack Ryder now, and we were gonna talk about him in this spot anyway, but then he lost the United States title this week, and that just put it to a whole nother level. And for the last few months, we've seen ratings recaps for Raw, and in every segment that Zack Ryder has been in, whether it's a match or a promo or a backstage segment or a tire changing incident, whatever it is, as long as Zack Ryder is on the screen, we're seeing some numbers that can't be denied. Even from the people, like fellow Lords of Podcast Roundtable member Cold, he always likes to say that ratings don't matter anymore. And to a certain extent, he's right. With the amount of people that watch Raw on streams or download it online or just DVR the show and watch it later, watch it on Tuesday or whatever, the ratings that you see don't necessarily indicate, obviously, how many people are watching the show. That's fine. But ratings still do matter. They're still a very important indicator of who should be pushed, who shouldn't be pushed, and things like that. And when you see that Zack Ryder not only loses viewers, but loses them in record numbers, that's ought to open your eyes. I mean, there's no denying the facts that you see. Super Chris likes to talk about the merchandise that Zack Ryder sells. Okay, that's fine. It's a valid argument, I guess. You do see Zack Ryder merchandise in the crowd. There have been multiple occasions that I've gone to WWE shop and looked at a Zack Ryder shirt and it said that it was sold out. I'm sure you guys have done the same thing. I've seen times where his merchandise is sold out.
Right.
That's fine. But what that doesn't tell you is how much he's selling. There could have been 1 million shirts and it sold out. Could have been 10 shirts and it sold out. We don't know. There are no numbers that are going to back that up. So Super Chris can say that he's selling merchandise and he's a huge merchandise seller, but we don't know that. We'll probably never know unless we get some sort of WWE insider or unless we start working for the company ourselves and get access to these numbers. But we don't know. We don't know where Zack Ryder's numbers compare to, say, a John Cena or a CM Punk. We don't know. But with these ratings numbers, you can see it. And, for example, on November 21st, a match between Zack Ryder and Alberto Del Rio lost 782,000 viewers. Let that sink in for a second.
It's actually 882,000. It's much worse than 782. He lost another 100,000, 882,000 people.
Did I type that in wrong?
Yes,
Wow.
you did.
Man, I'm trying to give Zack Ryder some credit, and you just shut it all down there.
Yeah,
Wow.
he lost much more than that.
To be fair, it was also Alberto Del Rio, who's not. I mean, as much as WWE would like to say he's this, big aristocracy sort of Mexican guy, he's not that big of a draw either.
Well,
Alright.
he was WWE champion at the time, though.
All right, Super Chris, relax.
No, I'm not trying to defend necessarily Zack Ryder. I'm a fan of his, but I understand that his numbers for drawing are not good at all. But not everything needs to necessarily be put solely on Zack Ryder. Because if you look at a lot of the segments, outside of the ones where he's with, like, John Cena, he's getting put with guys like people like Eve Torres and drawing a 239 because Eve was about to go have a match with Beth Phoenix.
You really are defending Zack Ryder here.
Can I interject something? I need to interject something.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Because we're talking numbers. And as we know, Zack became a star from the internet. So people will say ratings don't matter for him because it wasn't for the general crowd, it's for us and everybody that follows him. I would like to add some more evidence into this case about Zack Ryder and his diminishing popularity. If you
Is
go to
his
Zack,
YouTube numbers
you
going
go
down?
you go to the Zack Ryder page and you look at his YouTube numbers. At one time, Zack was always easily over 200,000, touching 300,000. In the past few weeks, he's barely breaking 100,000. And I don't know if that's just a coincidence that now that he
I don't think
started.
it's a coincidence. No, not necessarily.
So if it's not a coincidence, I'm offering that up to you now that even his internet following is not as high as it was before either. Well, the show is starting to suck too, but
Well,
it
as I mentioned on Twitter last night when we had that epic war, well, not last night, the other night, the epic war of words with Super Chris on Twitter, you know, even if he is getting 200, 300,000 views per episode, for someone, that's an actual celebrity that's on television on a
That's
regular
nothing.
basis,
that millions
that's
of people
not.
know. Yeah.
You can record your cat for 30 seconds and get 300,000 views on YouTube. I'm not saying that that's terrible numbers. We don't get 300,000 views for our podcast, but
Not
We
yet.
wish we did,
like
but
Next
for
week.
for someone of his stature, that's not that great. He should have more than that. But now we're talking about 100,000, less than that.
Yeah.
Like,
His-
and
his-
and as Glow said, this is internet fans. These are his fans, the people that built him up in the first place, and he's losing them too.
It's dropping. Every week it goes down by a little. Now he's at 115,000 for his last video when he peaked out at 600,000 at one time.
Everybody
It's going
that's
down.
listening to this, everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, either knows someone or is someone who was a fan, at least of Ryder's internet show, but is now not a fan.
Yep,
Because
Exactly.
I'm one of
even
them.
even I could be considered that. I wasn't a huge Ryder fan in the beginning, but his show was cool. It was unique. It was a nice way to get publicity, to get his name out there, and there were some funny moments. But once you've seen 4 episodes or 6 episodes or 10 episodes, you've pretty much seen them all.
this is true. His show doesn't have that much variety to it. I mean, there are some segments that they'll throw in there occasionally that are interesting or funny,
Like his dad.
like his dad. But after a while, it's literally just him, advertising himself basically, and then you'll maybe get a cameo or two from a couple of guys,
Or
but
Morrison.
that's it. It's just when
I'm
it started, it was
Zack Ryder.
groundbreaking, basically.
But I think that speaks onto the bigger problem with Ryder, though, because his show, the big part of his show was the fact that he was trying to get on TV. And the whole purpose of his show was for him to try to get on, and everything he did was try to get on. But once he got on, his show didn't change. His character on wrestling didn't change either. Like, once he actually got what he was looking for, I'm not going to say he did nothing with it, but it feels like he did nothing with it. And then now that's why people are getting tired of him. Because he's not doing nothing different. He's still the same guy. Ooh, I'm on TV. Ooh, I'm the champion. Okay, so what now? Do something. And he's not. So I can see the ratings dropping, and his YouTube shows are definitely dropping because he's still talking about how he's trying to get on the show, and he's happy when he's taking a picture of Laurinaitis or something. Like, he needs to get over that if he still wants to keep his YouTube channel at least.
A lot of people have brought that up, like you just said, he went from not being on TV and basically begging on YouTube to be put on TV to being on TV all the time. And that's not something that, wrestling fans are used to or necessarily even like. It's usually kind of a slow thing. You'll see a new guy, and then he gets a little bit more time. And then he gets a little bit more time until eventually he's a main eventer or he's on TV all the time. With Zack Ryder, it was nothing to everything. Almost overnight. He would have weeks where he wouldn't even have his face seen on television. And then all of a sudden, he's in 7 segments per episode. And that's Raw
On both
and
shows,
SmackDown.
yeah.
So
And
at the end of the week, you're like, I've seen Zack Ryder
Zack Ryder
so many
so
fucking times this week.
So I think it's basically becoming Zack Ryder oversaturation.
that too.
It's because he's on Raw, and then he was doing the SmackDown assistant to the general manager thing, and he was showing up on Superstars occasionally, and it's gotten to the point where he's everywhere. He's got more than one avenue of being seen, and I think that's just sort of grating on the fans, and that's what's probably bringing his show down. Because it used to be you could only see Zack Ryder and his stuff on, Z True Long Island Story. But now you can see him anywhere. You could turn on either Raw or SmackDown and end up seeing him.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
when you look at the numbers, we've talked about it privately. We've talked about it on Twitter and things like that. But when you look at the numbers of the segments that Ryder has been in the last couple months, pretty much the only time that he's in a segment that gains viewers is when John Cena is involved. And that isn't just me saying that as a Cena fan. That's not my bias at all. That's almost without fail the 100% truth.
He's either with Cena or Punk in all the ones that he's gaining. Almost
and
all
even
of them.
then, the gains are nowhere near what they normally are for Cena and for Punk.
Right.
So it's still clear that Ryder is bringing it down.
Right.
And I think Glow mentioned it earlier, or it could have been Jeff. I'm sorry, I forgot already. But it isn't solely Ryder's fault. I'm not going to sit here and say that Ryder is 100% ratings poison. It's all his fault because like has been mentioned, he's put with Eve. Eve is definitely not a ratings draw. So putting Ryder in a storyline with Eve isn't helping him. But at the same time, as I've mentioned in arguments with people about this, if I'm a fan of a particular wrestler, and that wrestler is in a match or in a storyline with someone that I don't like, I'm still going to watch. I like John Cena. I don't like Jinder Mahal. If John Cena's wrestling Jinder Mahal, am I going to tune out? No. I'm going to keep watching. I like John Cena. So all these people that are tuning out, sitting there be like, well, I like Zack Ryder, but I don't like Eve. I'm going to change the channel. Like, why?
I think that goes to say that maybe Zack Ryder is sort of a fringe talent. You like him, or people like him, but maybe not necessarily enough to stick around to continue watching him if they know he's going to be in something stupid or something that isn't all that interesting, like, for instance, a match with Alberto Del Rio or a segment with Eve Torres changing a tire. It's like he's popular enough, but he's also not to keep fans in for certain segments or certain actions. So, I don't know, it's weird, I think, because he's got all this support and he's supposedly selling out merchandise, but he's also not a big enough name or a big enough draw to keep people tuned in.
Yeah, the casual fan is tuning out whenever Ryder's on TV.
And those are the people that you need to hook.
That's the bulk of the audience. We're the fringe. We're the niche group that likes or watches guys that aren't really popular. But Ryder is he's trying to catch everybody, and it's failing miserably. It's just not working. Like, the casual fans are tuning out in droves, and even some of the internet fans now are tuning out in droves.
See, there was a time not all that long ago that, whether it's realistic or not, there was a time that people were discussing Zack Ryder as a future world champion.
Yes.
We've all seen it. We've all probably had a discussion with somebody about it. But
Super Chris.
Yeah, and it isn't even just Super Chris. I've seen a lot of people like on Twitter and Facebook say that, by the end of 2012, Zack Ryder is going to be the WWE champion or the world champion or whatever. And, people would agree with that. But it's not happening. I don't make guarantees and things like that, but this is going to be about as close as you're going to get from me. It's not happening. Not only will Zack Ryder not win a world title in 2012, and he's never going to win one unless something drastic happens to his character. What he is now it's not happening. The fans just don't care, and it's not even going to be one of those things where, well, maybe if we keep him off TV for a little while, people will like him again. No. You can keep him off TV for a month, and then you're going to come back and push him the same way again. You're going to put him in 7 segments a week.
I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, honestly, that was the main problem right from the jump.
They were shoving him down our throats.
Yeah.
I think that was a knee-jerk reaction. They saw that he was, that the fans were asking for him, and they were like, "Oh, I guess we should really do something with Zack Ryder, everything, put him on every show."
But it doesn't work for anyone. The only person it ever worked for was Austin, because it doesn't work for Cena. Because that's the reason why people started to turn on Cena, because he was getting shoved down their throats.
Let's put it this way then, Super Chris, this is your fault.
Damn.
You wrote all those columns about how Zack Ryder should be on TV. He should be pushed. He should be this. He should be that.
Well, he got it.
People were in the crowds. We want Ryder. All this. You people wanted this. This is exactly what you wanted. Then you got him. Then they pushed him down everyone's throats. Then everyone got sick of him. And now, look at where he is. He lost a squash match, basically, to drop the United States title. This is your fault, Chris.
Damn.
See, I don't know if it's necessarily Chris's fault or the fans' fault. I mean, I would put more blame on the WWE, assuming that we wanted more Ryder to mean we want Ryder 4 times on every show.
Well, I don't blame them. When you have people chanting for Ryder during matches that he has absolutely nothing to do with, wouldn't that indicate
that you want more of him? Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if, say, John Cena's cutting a promo saying, Zack Ryder's, busting his ass and he can't get television time. What's wrong with this company? Then the fans could chant, "We want Ryder." Cool. He's being discussed. But if it's a random Divas match or some random mid-card match, and that's what the fans chant, that would indicate to me that, wow, these people really like Zack Ryder. Okay. All right, well, if they like him so much, we're gonna give it to him. This is what they want. This is what they're asking for. People always complain that the WWE doesn't give their fans what they want. Well, this was a rare occasion that not only did they give the fans what they want, they gave them exactly what they wanted. And then they gave them more of what they wanted.
I can't disagree with you there.
Then they gave them more. And then they continued to give them more.
Cheap.
And it's like, Thanksgiving, you get all excited because, there's turkey and there's mashed potatoes and, I want it. And then you sit down at the table and, oh, look, there's some turkey and there's mashed potatoes and there's stuffing and, oh, everything's great. And then you have a whole plate full of it. And, oh, it was good and it was fantastic. But then grandma's sitting there going, oh, you need to put on some weight. You're getting kind of skinny there, boy. Have another plate. Okay, I think I could deal with a second plate. So you start scarfing down the plate and eating more turkey, more mashed potatoes. You're fine. Then you finish that plate. Still not enough. Grandma thinks you should eat more. Now it's a third plate.
You fat bastard.
And then you keep eating. You keep eating. Keep eating.
Why do I feel like this has actually happened in Hustle's life before?
Just
like stories.
This is an anecdote from Hustle.
just saying. It's
possible. Yeah, that's how it is.
And,
right.
After you've sat there and you've been eating turkey and mashed potatoes for an hour and a half and you've gone through 6 plates, you don't want to ever see a turkey and a potato again. You just, no thanks. It's not happening.
But once again, I wanted turkey and mashed potatoes, and then the person who's giving it to me decides that I need to have all the turkey and mashed potatoes, even though that's not exactly what I wanted. I just wanted some more turkey and mashed potatoes.
Since March, if all you've been telling Grandma is how excited you are for turkey and mashed potatoes, that's your fault, isn't it?
But she shouldn't give him all the turkey. She didn't give him a whole turkey. Just give him a leg.
If you keep asking for it, that's what you're going to get.
Grandma's supposed to know best. And that's what the WWE should have done. They should have known better than to shove them down people's throat. Because it doesn't work for anybody. Not one wrestler has that worked for it. That's only Austin used to get away with that.
Unless, of course, they did so maliciously so that Ryder wouldn't get over, or that he wouldn't get over, but then, the fans would get sick of him.
To prove a point.
They could have been, trying to prove a point. Like, oh, this is what you wanted. Well, here's what you get. Let's see how long it takes before you decide you don't like him anymore.
It could be that, Ryder wasn't a part of their long-term plans, and they just wanted to get this out of the way so they could go with, Swagger or whoever they were going to push.
See, now you guys are all going to start sounding like Super Chris. Talking about how this is a conspiracy, and then they were sabotaging him from day one.
Hey, it could be, but come on, that's reaching a little bit. Who knows?
Oh, this man is known to be a rather vindictive person.
Yeah, but to the point where he
would sabotage his own show.
2.3 ratings for segments on Raw.
Even Ryder segments.
These are potentially people that aren't coming back.
Right.
It's not like Raw, other than Zack Ryder, has been fantastic in the last few months. So, when you have segments that are 2.3 on your show, you're risking it being 2.3 forever. You're not bringing in new viewers. So if you're going to sabotage Ryder for that, why?
Now that's why they took the title off him. They sabotaged him, saw how terrible he did, and now they're going to move on. They're just not worried about him anymore.
Because he was breaking ratings for losing people. That's how bad it was. I know it was in January. He had the lowest rated segment since 1997.
Yeah.
Do you know how long ago 1997 was?
Do you know how much
bad Raw has gone on between 1997 and now, and he's had the lowest rated segment? That's terrible.
That's impressive, if nothing else.
We've seen some bad stuff. Jeez.
1997 was a terrible year for the WWF.
Yeah, they were the WWF still.
98 was still, they were building up in 98. 99, 2000 is when it really started picking up. But even through like the mid 2000s, there have been some really down points with the WWE and with Raw. But to have the lowest rated segment
since 1997, so much bad Raw has gone on in that time.
It really has.
And that's just that one segment. That's throwing in the fact that we mentioned earlier, where they lost almost 900,000 viewers for a match.
You know how much viewers that is?
A third of your audience for a match.
TNA would kill for that.
Oh.
And he lost that.
Ouch.
And that's not the only time, too. I'm just looking at these numbers, just without getting into details. Lost 431,000. Lost 721,000. Lost 582,000. These are big numbers.
Main event, plus 59,000, which is a horrendous number for the overrun main event slot.
It could be Kyle and I versus Glow and Jeff in a tag team match in the overrun of Raw, and we would gain more than 59,000 viewers.
I think we would.
Just out of curiosity alone. There would be people tuning in like, who the fuck are these guys?
And just seen as the special guest referee, that's the only way we keep those numbers.
like I said in the beginning, you know, numbers don't lie. When we're to this point,
Exactly.
you see these numbers, and he's a ratings killer right now. But you know, it's not solely his fault. I understand that, but man,
He could he could be rejuvenated too. It's not like we're putting him in the casket now saying he's a ratings killer. He'll never. They could rework him and he could become somebody again, but they have to change their approach. Like this,
They really do.
They just had to change their approach and rework him.
Whatever they're doing now is not working.
They need to keep him off TV and see if it's really him being the ratings poison or not. Like these next 2 weeks, you know, pre-Rumble and post-Rumble, I want to see if anybody else is actually doing ratings killing, or if it's just solely him that's causing these gigantic dips in viewership.
A post-Rumble show is going to be well rated, because it always is. But the pre-Rumble show, you'll see.
Oh, sorry, Kyle.
I know, I'm going to that one.
Have fun.
You'll see what happens. But the post-Rumble, yeah, is always highly rated. Well, not highly, but it's decent.
The thing that stands out to me right now, like I said, we saw Zack Ryder lose the title on Raw this week, but it took 3 finishers from Jack Swagger to actually lose the match.
Yeah, in that regard, he looked all right. He showed a lot of heart, basically.
It was a glorified squash. I don't recall Ryder being on offense much, if at all. But, you know, like I said, it did take 3 finishers. So that does leave the door open for him to come back and still be pushed if the company decides they want to lose more viewers. But,
Man.
That was unnecessary.
That was a dagger. That wasn't called for.
I just... They've got to pull the plug on the experiment. If they haven't already. If that's not what Monday was.
It was temporarily. As I said, they could rework him.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, they need to do something drastic with his character. I'm not saying a heel turn, but I mean, he needs to be different. He can't come back as the woo-woo-woo guy and take care, spike your hair, and cutting the same promos. You can't do that. There needs to be some sort of character advancement. And if there's not, then release him. Like, what's the point?
I don't know.
I don't understand. He's 882,000 viewers in one segment.
Yo, that number just stares you in the face.
And it's a match against the current WWE champion, and he loses almost 900,000 viewers.
That's crazy.
Man.
It's like you can't even say anything. Like,
It's just...
And people want to push him to the main event, huh?
Let's see what this week without Ryder, if he even gets to stay off TV.
I bet you he won't. I bet you he'll be on Raw next week. He may not wrestle. He'll still be selling the injury, but he'll still be there complaining. Because, you know, there is that part of the storyline that Laurinaitis let him wrestle, even though he wasn't medically cleared, which is still fucking stupid. WWE likes to pick and choose when to enforce their rules.
I was going to bring that up, that the fact that he's not even like really... He's a wrestler, but he doesn't have any own storyline for himself. And he's just like a storyline tool, like how David Otunga is just used in storyline as a tool when they need to just progress something. They're using Ryder as a tool in this overarching Cena storyline. Like, this is not even his storyline. So I don't even know if they have anything for him besides just being a tool right now.
He is a tool.
Well, they need to take him off and rework. If he's just going to be like an Otunga type character or a Santino character where you're just there as a storyline progressive tool, you're never going to really get over yourself. And they have to work him. They have to do something.
All right. Half hour on Zack Ryder.
No. Our ratings just dropped. Oh my goodness.
I was just about to say, I bet you we lost a third of our listeners just now.
Our ratings.
That's just mean. We're just getting mean at this point.
We could blame our views on Ryder this week. Let's go.
Let's move on.
Good idea.
How about that Raw?
beep boop bop boop beep. So Raw
Were there any highlights?
was on Monday.
Were there any? Okay, we've been saying all this negative stuff. Is there any highlights on Raw? Anybody have a highlight?
Brodus Clay.
Brodus goddamn Clay.
Funk is on the road.
This is
Somebody call my mama.
this is the quickest I have ever turned around on a gimmick. Like day one last week on Raw, I was shitting on this gimmick so hard. I hated it. Then I watched Friday on SmackDown. I started to like it a little. Last night, I love this fucking gimmick. This gimmick is terrific. Brodus Clay, this character works for him. He's having a shitload of fun doing it. Like you can tell he is enjoying the hell out of this gimmick.
Hey, or at least over there. What?
Or at least he can fake it. Like he looks like he's having fun at the very least, and that might get him over. Like people tune in, see this guy dancing around, looking like he's actually having fun with it. They might stick around and watch. It might work, and if it doesn't, they gotta fall back.
See, everything about this gimmick is just, at least for me, perfect. You have this big guy who could be an absolute monster, just having fun and enjoying himself, but he's still booked and looked at as a threat. He doesn't come off necessarily childish or silly. He's, I dance around, I point to the crowd and then punch you in the face. I say these things, but then I'm going to crush you with my, 450-pound body with the crossbody, or I'm going to toss you halfway across the ring with an exploder.
He definitely did that Monday night.
Yes, he did. He looks serious enough, but has enough character and pizzazz and color to him that he's going to be entertaining in a breath of fresh air.
See, I brought this up on Skype yesterday when we were watching Raw. With this gimmick, we've seen it now 3 times on TV. And in all 3 occasions, we've seen something different. Mm-hmm. He's either brought a new dance in or he said something different. And what that opens the door for is that every time you see Brodus Clay, you could see something different.
Innovation.
And that's
not something that you can say about anyone else.
Like Zack Ryder. Like that's our point with Zack Ryder earlier. Clay is doing the opposite. And he's on every show. But continue.
Look at the WWE roster from top to bottom. Main event guys, jobber guys. It's generally the same thing every week. I mean, it's going to be Brodus Clay dancing. I'm not saying his gimmick is going to change, but I mean, he adds a new dance. He went from not raising the roof last week on Raw. then he was raising the roof on SmackDown. But he wasn't raising the roof on Raw this week. He's adding new dances. He did the whole, booty shake at the beginning of Raw this week.
Yeah.
That's the first time he's done that.
And the last time I need to see it.
He messed with JTG's head during the match.
Yes, he did.
The whole thing about, what's that over there? Punch you in the face. Never done that before. It's something different every single time you see him. And
that's fun.
If he keeps coming out and if they give him longer matches, that's more opportunity to see new things. And it's clear that it's getting over. When you say that, people are going to automatically say, yeah, but the crowd doesn't explode when they see him. It doesn't have to. They've only seen him 3 times.
Right.
And it's not like Brodus Clay was on TV all the time before.
Yeah, I was one of those guys who were saying that. Like, the crowd isn't really moving. They're making noise, though. Despite not really emoting, they're making noise for his matches.
There's a decent part of the WWE universe that had never saw Brodus Clay at all before the Funkasaurus gimmick. They didn't watch NXT or they didn't see his various matches or segments after NXT.
They didn't see him with Del Rio at all.
Yeah, and then he was gone for X amount of time, and then he was coming back but then they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back. So we're talking about people that have literally only seen Brodus Clay 3 times now. So no one's expecting him to get, main event level pops at this point. That'd be ridiculous. But if he keeps doing new things, he keeps getting over. The sky's the limit for this gimmick. It's the same thing with Rikishi back in the day. It's the parallels are really similar. A really big guy who's played a relative monster at one point or another in his career, then they just give him a fun gimmick. Just let him go out and dance and just have a little fun. And it got over. I mean, Rikishi was never a world champion.
You got to have that caveat, though. It was the Attitude Era. Crowds got everything over in the Attitude Era. Like, they cheered for everything back then. Nowadays, not so much.
Well, if you want to go that, I'll go this route. There's more kids now.
True.
And this is a fun gimmick. I mean,
right.
It's a good market. It's a good market for him. I'll give him that.
This is a really good time for a gimmick like that. I mean, we've talked about it privately and publicly before. There's not enough characters in the WWE.
It's just real name guy 1, real name guy 2. There's not a lot of actual characters.
It's not even about, real names. It's just about everyone is these mostly stoic.
Stoic.
Stoic, there we go. Stoic, straight-laced, black tights, no color, no character, no charisma, no flash, no pizzazz, and it's all the same. And then you get this big, fat, tattooed guy wearing a big red singlet coming out in track pants and the hat with two girls dancing with lights going off. That's different. That's interesting. That stands out. And the dancing only adds to it. The should I get him? My bad. That adds to it, and it makes him something that the WWE hasn't had in a while, and it's something I think WWE should be doing more of.
Sheeplex.
Chihuahua.
But I think go back to what Huss was saying, that every time he's in the ring, he does something different. It's a great thing to just instill into the fans to know that every time you see this man, you're going to see something new, which makes more people want to see him in longer matches. They're not going to put him in longer matches yet, I don't think.
Maybe they're still trying to get him. Essentially, they're still just trying to get him over now.
So probably post Rumble, around Elimination Chamber time, in those weeks, he may start doing longer matches. Maybe
once he dominates in the Rumble for a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's gonna probably get some mid-carders or low mid-carders. I still think he's gonna get McIntyre on SmackDown this week and just complete the whole Drew McIntyre's gone from this company pretty soon.
I mean, that may happen on SmackDown.
Not necessary for that slander. Jeez.
There was no slander. I'm a big fan of Brodus Clay, not because of his gimmick or anything. He's actually a tremendous worker. For a man his size, he's a great worker, and it's not his moveset, it's how comfortable and how smooth he is in the ring. And I was a big Vader fan growing up. I'm not saying that he's Vader, before anybody even say that. He reminds me of him, the way that for a man his size to just be so smooth, and even though you don't want to call a 400-pound man graceful, but graceful in the ring as he's running and doing whatever he's doing. And he's always demonstrated that. So even if he's stuck with this gimmick that he's enjoying, he's having fun, I liken it to when I first saw it, I likened it to Will Ferrell and either his Anchorman or Moon from that basketball movie. I forgot the name of the basketball movie. Semi-pro. That type of character, because he's doing the same type of hand motions with the clawing at the ear and all. He's doing all of that stuff. At the end of the day, he's still a great worker, which I think is going to help him in the long run, because once he gets in these longer matches, people are going to see that he's more than just smiles and shakes. He can throw exploders across the ring.
He's very agile for a big man.
He's very,
he's the world's largest suplex machine, as his former gimmick would say. I mean, that's something that stands out about him. Usually these suplex machine guys are smaller workers.
Taz.
The Taz's and the Chris Benoit's and the Kurt
Davey
Angle.
Richards and the
it's these small guys, but now you're talking about a guy who's 6'8", 6'9", 400 pounds, And so not only is he throwing suplexes, but he's so much bigger and so much stronger that he's literally throwing his opponents clean across the ring.
Poor JTG.
And it just
JTG was on one corner and he got chucked up, stood up at the other corner.
He got tossed. No selling needed.
There's just a lot of stuff that could happen. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and predict the main event run. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to win a world title. None of that. But he's getting over. And that's all that matters right now.
The sky is really the limit for Brodus Clay.
They're going to keep putting him out there every week. Like Kyle said, I'm sure he's going to wrestle on SmackDown. I'm sure he'll be on Raw again. You're just going to give him these little squash matches. Eventually, that's going to build into bigger matches. I do think, as Kyle said again, I do think Brodus could do a lot in the Rumble. I do think we're going to see one of those eliminating X amount of guys in the match.
6-7 guys.
Yeah, it's a good amount of time.
And then, that'll get him over some more. And it's the Rumble, so there's going to be, extra spotlight on it. There's going to be more people watching. And then from there, who knows? He's definitely getting more over now. He's getting more of a reaction with each time that he comes out, and that's really all you can ask for in this position, I think.
I like it. The Funk is on the roll, and I'm about to call his mama, but I don't want him to find out because he may kill me.
That would be true.
Somebody call my mama on Martin Luther King Day.
Okay.
All right, so we're talking about highlights from Raw and things that were positive. That's kind of few and far between these days. But something that I mentioned in my running diary and that I've mentioned on several occasions in the past, when we see John Cena wrestling with a more aggressive style, when he's in these storylines where he's wrestling pissed off, that's incredibly entertaining to me. I mean, I know you guys have said kind of similar things privately in the past, but we don't see a lot of change in his in-ring, style. I'm not saying he can't wrestle. I'm not one of those guys, obviously, but there's not a lot of change in his style. But when he wrestles these angry style matches, it's so much fun. I mean, he beats the shit out of people.
I legit fear for some of those guys when Cena's character is mad.
How he didn't injure people in that Nexus storyline, I'll never understand.
If you believe the reports, he did injure Michael Tarver.
Yes, he did.
But who cares about Michael Tarver?
It's Michael Tarver.
He didn't injure any of the main people. That was important.
Yeah. He was beating the shit out of people. And we got to see it again this week in his match with Jax. Well, it wasn't even really a match. He just, it was supposed to be a match. It just never really got around to it. But he beat the hell out of Jack Swagger.
He beat the holy hell out of Jack Swagger.
Yeah, right. You're right. I can't undersell it like that. But then if you talk about that, you have to flip it around and look at how they treated Jack Swagger, who just won the United States title 20 to 30 minutes earlier in the show, and then comes out and gets destroyed by Cena.
He almost got his brains, splattered all over the outside of the ring.
I don't know what Jack Swagger did to piss someone off like that. I don't know what he did backstage before the show, but damn. All right, Jack, we're going to give you the title, but you're then going to get your head just mollywopped on for like 5 minutes. Hope that's okay with you.
Cena didn't even wrestle Swagger. He didn't try not one wrestling move. He was beating him until Swagger was visibly turning red on parts of his body.
In the face. He was getting punched in the face.
In the chest, on the back, because he was slamming around. Even when he was grabbing Swagger's little, what the hell those things are called again?
Singlets.
His singlet. And
Pulls him.
he's pulling them and using that to. I was like, this guy's trying to kill him.
You know, I mentioned it yesterday on Skype again, but if you see interviews online with various wrestlers, either past or present from the WWE, and they talk about who's the stiffest worker that they have to deal with, or who's the strongest, whatever, it's always Cena. It's always not that he's a sloppy worker or that he's trying to hurt somebody. It's just that he's so strong and he's so intense and he puts so much into his work that he's just kind of a stiff worker to begin with. But when he's wrestling like that, oh man,
look out!
Because he was just stiff and Swagger. Just those punches, those weren't pulled. Those weren't like I hit you in the side of the head, sort of, kind of. Those were I'm going to drive my fist right in between your eyes repeatedly until you're like halfway unconscious. It was just nasty. It was mean. It was.
As I said, Swagger did not sell not one moment in that whole segment. He was legit getting beat up.
Yeah, he didn't have to. No selling required there.
There was no selling. Wow.
He really got his ass kicked. I mean, there's only
so much you can say about that.
Yeah, it's just
we watched the man get beat up
and
enjoyed it.
I mean, obviously he's the mid-card champion. Cena is the face of the company, whether he's the champion or not. So clearly there's a pecking order, and obviously he's below Cena. So I'm not saying he should have beat Cena up, but holy hell.
It's just ridiculous.
It wasn't a wrestling match. Not at all.
Wow. And he's so much bigger than Cena. Well, not so much, like he's 8 feet tall, but I mean, he's taller than Cena.
Cena's like 6'2", and Swagger's like 6'6". Yeah.
He's bigger. He's heavier. Not stronger, but Swagger's kind of retard strong, too.
Yeah, he is.
You've seen some of the things that he does. Swagger's got... Yeah, he's not Cena, though.
Cena is the true definition of retard strong.
Wow.
Cena's bench pressing 900 pounds with one arm kind of strong. and he's putting all that power into a fist. And he's raining it down on Swagger's face, like 37 times.
And then he's hitting him with the clothesline, dropping the back of his head on the table. It's just, I thought Jack Swagger was going to die last night. Not kidding. I really thought Jack Swagger was going to be carted out of the arena.
I don't know. It gave me flashbacks of when Cena fought Jesus back in the day.
Oh, man.
And he almost legitimately killed that man.
To this day, I watch that match on a semi-regular basis just for fun. That was... Wow. That was a brutal beating.
Yeah.
That was actually like 10 times worse than what Swagger got.
I know. Cena's stronger now.
Jesus was getting destroyed. I mean, it made sense because in the storyline they stabbed him.
Cena. Yes, they stabbed him.
They literally tried to kill him, and he came back from that. So it would make sense that he'd be just a little bit upset. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
And this is back in his rapper gimmick too. So yeah.
We say that in wrestling a lot. He tried to kill him, or he looked like he tried to kill him. No, that's what the storyline was. They actually stabbed him at a nightclub, and that's what the storyline was. So coming back and giving Jesus that beating made sense. So, but like this though, being this upset over what happens to Zack Ryder, like man, can you imagine if Laurinaitis fucked over Cena personally, and then put Cena in a match with Swagger? He might have killed him.
Obituary for Jack Swagger, right?
Might have F5'd him off the rafters or something. Shit.
See, my only problem with it now, though, is you didn't exactly get Swagger off to a good start with his United States title reign.
No, not
He
at all.
he does have a built-in excuse though in that he had a match prior
But he didn't
to
really
it.
have a match though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Power
it was
bomb.
it was a 3-minute exhibition of him beating someone else up. But I mean, yeah, he's not off to the greatest start with his title reign.
Right.
But
We'll see what they do with Swagger. Hopefully they'll do something with him.
I would hope so. I mean, he deserves it.
He is the U.S. champ now.
He's been dealt a pretty bad hand for a while. So hopefully, but we'll see about that.
So
but,
you're saying this time next year Miz is going to be U.S. champion?
this time next year, Miz might not even be employed at this rate.
Damn.
I'm not sitting here making that prediction before I know someone's going to sit here.
Write this down, everyone. Quick.
Someone's going to reply, "Oh, you're dumb. Why would you say that?" Like, no, I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying at the rate he's going, when you look at January 2011 to January 2012, looking ahead to January 2013, yikes. There's not much further for him to go down at this point. But whatever, that's a completely different story altogether. There is one more thing I'd like to talk about Raw before we move on to our final topic. But, we've talked about John Laurinaitis in the past, positive, negative, whatever. But we're finally getting real character development. And, watching it on Skype with you guys yesterday, we were waiting for Laurinaitis to snap. When Punk was cutting the promo on him at the end and taking some personal shots at him and talking about his family members and talking about his in-ring career and his ass kissing as a corporate WWE guy, you could see the anger building up on his face. And it seemed authentic. Maybe not to the point where, oh my God, he didn't know Punk was going to say that. It's a shoot. Not necessarily to that point. I'm sure they all went over it beforehand, but nothing that Punk said was incorrect. And I think that was the point. It was to build that anger. It was to let Laurinaitis think about that. Your brother is a Hall of Fame performer. He's a legend in the tag team business. People know who he is. Your nephew is in the NFL. Your nephew's a star football player. You never did anything in your in-ring career, and not in this country at least. You were never that good, and then here you are working in the offices, and nobody has anything nice to say about you. It isn't just this character. Like, when was the last time through the last 10, 15 years you saw any interview that anybody had anything nice to say about John Laurinaitis?
You don't. You really
Exactly.
don't.
And letting him sit there and think about it in the middle of the ring with, however many thousands of people were in the arena, plus however many people were watching at home. It just let him think about it and let him stew on it. And he seemed like he was getting legitimately upset.
You could see it with his neck cracking. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna snap on him." Oh, you could just tell by him snapping or cracking his neck like that he was getting real mad real fast.
We were waiting for something physical.
Mm-hmm.
Glow, I know you were waiting for the Ace Crusher.
He invented the move. Might as well.
You're waiting for that to make its return, and we could see it. It could happen, but we all we got was a shot to Mick Foley's head with a microphone, and I guess that's getting it started. They've been hinting at a possible match between Punk and Laurinaitis. It could still happen, but what do you guys think of the character development? Is this a good twist? Is this something that makes his character better and something that you want to see more of, or is this going to hurt because now maybe they're going to start pushing him too much and people are going to get sick of him now?
I honestly think it's fine, just because it's almost like they're trying to turn him into a McMahon, like that. He's got that angry streak in him now that you could see him actually becoming the authority figure that people almost fear a little, because you never know what he's going to do to you. He could put you in a triple threat gauntlet Hell in a Cell match tonight, just because you mouthed off at him once. Before this, you could just sort of mouth off and he wouldn't really punish you. He'd just put you in a one-on-one match or something. But now he's got that little angry streak in him. You might want to lay off of him a bit. Punk's not going to, but other guys might actually think about it for a second.
I mean, he did come out and say, yeah, I'm going to screw Punk. And he's the authority figure on Raw. The soon-to-be permanent Raw general manager. If he's coming out and saying, I am going to screw this guy as the authority figure, that's not someone you want to mess with. I mean, his bumbling, sort of silly, kind of one-liner delivering, bumbling Raw GM character that he had before this was kind of fun, was kind of enjoyable. I liked it. I know a lot of people complained about it at first, but I liked it. But now he's got a backbone. Now he's willing to punch Mick Foley in the face with the microphone. And now he's becoming dangerous. Now he's becoming mad. And if you're going to do a heel, general manager like they're doing, you want it so that he's a person you have to fear, a person you have to be weary of, not someone you want to just push around like people can to Teddy Long. So I think I like where it's going. I like the character development. I do like that he's still going, my name is John Laurinaitis. I am the executive vice president of such and such and such. I thought that was funny before he snapped, but I like what they're doing with the former Johnny Ace.
Okay, you brought up a McMahon. They're trying to turn him into a McMahon, possibly. Think back to when Vince McMahon was feuding with Steve Austin. He was trying to screw Austin. That's what he lived for, was to see Austin suffer, to prevent him from winning the WWF title, or if he did it, to try to take it away from him. But Vince rarely ever came out and said he was trying to screw Austin. It was always in the interest of fairness. He was trying to be. Yeah, you
implied.
Knew he was screwing him, but he never came out and said, "Yes, Austin, I'm gonna try and screw you over at this coming pay-per-view." Yep,
that's true.
That's what's gonna happen. It just happened. You knew it was going to happen, but now Laurinaitis has officially come out and said, "Yes, I am going to screw CM Punk at the Royal Rumble." So now there's that entirely new level of intrigue to that match. There was already the intrigue. Punk's defending his title against the young, hungry challenger. And this authority figure that he's been feuding with is the special guest referee. Oh, how's he going to win? But now that Laurinaitis has come out and said, yep, I'm going to screw you over here. Now that's the story. How's Punk going to overcome these odds? And that makes people want to watch the match more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good selling point for this match. Not that it really needed a selling point, because you're probably looking at a 3 to 4 star match to begin with, and it's the Royal Rumble, so people are going to be watching anyway. But this just adds, like I said, an entirely new level of intrigue, and that's awesome. But Glow, what do you think about Laurinaitis? You're the only one that hasn't really said a whole lot here.
I enjoy the development personally, and I think it's really going to add to this storyline, or even just to him. Because even though, truthfully, they have Punk and Laurinaitis as Punk being the face and Laurinaitis being the heel, they haven't been really acting those roles. If you actually look at it without, putting them in those contexts. Truthfully, if you look at Punk has been more of like a bully towards Laurinaitis this whole time. And Laurinaitis hasn't necessarily done anything crazy heelish after he was dealing with Kevin Nash. Like, after the Nash Triple H stuff kind of left his storyline and he was kind of on his own, Laurinaitis hasn't done anything crazy heelish. He kind of does stuff here or there, but he's been more middle in the road with his actions.
And
but
even the stuff that he was doing that was, quote-unquote heelish,
always
came off as face stuff. He's like, hey, these guys, Vicky Guerrero and Dolph Ziggler are sitting out here, and Zack Ryder sitting out here. They don't need to be out here. It's send them to the back.
Yeah,
he never did something that was legitimately spiteful.
No, he has never been crazy heelish where you're like, this is justified, but Punk has always been attacking him, not physically, but verbally attacking him, making fun of him, picking on him, bullying him, and trying to undermine him at any chance. That when I saw Punk cutting this promo on Laurinaitis last night, and he's in Laurinaitis' face, and he's just talking down on him, telling him about his kids, his family, his career, basically trying to make this man feel like nothing. I was like, that's very heelish thing for him to do. Like, I think in that scenario, it looked as if Punk was the major heel. And Laurinaitis is now finally trying to stand up for himself. Not trying to get back, but he's actually trying to stand up for himself. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I know that's not what they're going for unless there is a double turn out there that they have hovering that I don't know about. But I don't think they were going for Punk to look like a heel and Laurinaitis to be sympathetic, because I actually feel bad for Laurinaitis, me personally. Like, his character and everything, like, I was like, this man's out there trying, he's not the more charismatic man out there, he's not the best looking man, he's not the funniest man. He's just out there trying to do his job and trying to be Mr. Excitement. But Punk is just like trying to kill him for it. It's disgusting. But I like it. Go Laurinaitis.
It's a very interesting route they're taking, and I want to see it unfold some more.
But yeah, honestly, I do think it makes Punk look heelish when you really look at the full storyline. Laurinaitis didn't really do nothing to Punk, really. He kind of just been reaching out and attacking him since the Triple H thing. I don't know if I'm crazy for thinking that, but really, when you think about the storyline,
it really does seem like he's
like,
the heel, and Laurinaitis is actually the face, and he's finally like, that's it, I've had enough of this shit.
Especially with their anti-bully and Be a Star campaign.
Yeah.
Punk shouldn't be the face in this situation, but he is.
Just getting abused every week.
Yo, last night was... Like I said, if you take your mind out of wrestling and just like look at it for what it was, last night was pretty bad and embarrassing for him. Like, with Punk just in his face berating him.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Just, hey man, don't forget, you suck. You have always sucked, and you will always suck.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I hate you. Everyone hates you. Fuck you.
But that's why I thought he was like a little bit mad, legitimately. Because you kind of saw it. I don't even know if he's that good of an actor, so I really thought he was, this guy's talking about my brother, my nephew, my career. He's like, I'm a person too. I have feelings.
Foley just egging him on. Like, no, but just say it. Just say it. Just say what we're all thinking. Tell us you're going to screw Punk at Royal Rumble. It's like, yeah, you're really not helping, Foley.
Oh, yeah, I should have yelled Kane Dewey and then dropped him. Just so long for that. Kane Dewey! And just drop him. Pop.
Still think you should have busted out the Ace Crusher.
Yeah, I was yelling at you wasn't on the call. I was yelling at the whole time. Should have just caught him. Throwing Punk in the air and everything. Just like...
Gorilla Press Ace Crusher! Oh my god, what did we just see?
I didn't know that he was credited for actually inventing the move until the other day. I never knew that. At least according to Wikipedia when I saw it the other day.
He's the guy who created
the cutter.
The cutter. DDP just made it exceptionally famous.
Yeah, but I could say it was like some Japanese guy, so they probably did it.
Well, he was in Japan.
He was in Japan.
I know he was in Japan.
It, so technically.
So some Japanese guy did do it.
All right, looks like we're gonna have to cut this one short, guys. Looks like Hustle, his internet is acting up, or there's a power outage in Hawaii or something. So we're gonna have to end this one early. We got some good points in today. Any final words from you, Jeff?
Somebody call my mama.
Indeed, somebody call your mama. Your internet's acting up. Glow, how about you?
It's been a pleasure today. I had fun.
All right. Well, for everybody here at LOPR, take care. Have a good week.